A billionaire was dying in the middle of dinner, and no one knew why. Michael Brennan crashed to the floor, his chest on fire. The $500 teacup exploded against marble, porcelain shards scattering like shrapnel across the polished floor. Blood vessels bulged in his neck, dark purple lines standing out against his skin. He was choking, gasping, his lungs refusing to pull in air, clawing at his throat like something was burning him from the inside out. His fingers tore at his collar, ripping buttons free, desperate for relief that wouldn't come. Paramedics swarmed through the restaurant entrance within minutes. Diners screamed, chairs scraping as people jumped back. Chaos erupted across the waterfront room's elegant dining space. But one person wasn't panicking. Sarah, the waitress who'd been refilling water glasses just moments before, stared at the shattered teacup on the floor. Her face went white, all color draining as recognition hit her, because she recognized that smell, the bitter almond scent mixed with something herbal, something wrong, something that shouldn't exist outside a laboratory. Nobody knew that Sarah wasn't just a waitress. She was a doctor, a scientist who had studied poisons for 8 years at Stanford University, who could identify toxic compounds by scent alone. And the tea that just dropped from Michael's hand, she knew exactly what was in it. Every molecule, every deadly modification. Here's what Sarah didn't know. Michael Brennan had destroyed her life 3 years ago, stole her research through corporate espionage, ruined her career with false accusations and legal threats, forced her into hiding, into this uniform, into invisibility. And now, the poison killing him was her own creation, the compound she'd spent years perfecting, now weaponized against its own inventor's enemy. 72 hours. That's how long doctors had to figure out what was wrong. They ran every test known to medicine, EKGs, blood panels, cardiac, imaging, toxicology screens, and every single test came back clean, normal, impossible, because they were looking for a disease, for some medical explanation that made sense. But this wasn't a disease. It was murder, calculated, sophisticated, invisible murder. Sarah had a choice facing her in that moment. Stay silent and let the man who destroyed her die. Watch karma deliver justice she couldn't. Or speak up and risk exposing herself to the people hunting her, the corporations that had already ruined her once. But here's the twist that changed everything. The thing killing him was hidden in his jacket pocket. And when she found it, when she held that innocent-looking tea packet in her trembling hands, she realized this murder was connected to her in ways she never imagined, in ways that would unravel it. Conspiracy reaching far beyond one man's death. Drop a comment right now. Would you save someone who ruined your life? Your answer reveals something about you. Also, tell me where you are watching from and hit subscribe, because what Sarah did next will shock you. I guarantee it. Let me take you back to where this nightmare really began. 4 days before the collapse. Back when Michael Brennan thought he was untouchable and Sarah Bennett was invisible. For days before the collapse, Sarah Bennett's life looked simple. But nothing about Sarah was simple. 6:47 a.m. The waterfront room, Seattle's most exclusive restaurant, sat quiet before the morning rush. Sarah pushed through the kitchen doors, tying her black apron with hands that had once held pipettes worth thousands of dollars. Now they carried coffee pots. The morning shift smelled like espresso and fresh-baked bread. Outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, Elliott Bay stretched gray and endless, ferries cutting white lines through dark water. Beautiful, cold, exactly how Sarah felt most days. Table 6 needs 2 cappuccinos, 1 almond milk latte, and the executive breakfast special. No tomatoes, extra bacon, eggs over. Medium, called Marcus the head server. Sarah didn't write it down. She never did. Her brain was trained to remember chemical formulas with 37 variables. Breakfast orders were nothing. She moved through the dining room with a kind of efficiency that looked effortless but wasn't. Refill water before glasses emptied. Clear. Plates the moment forks dropped. Invisible. That was the goal. Stay invisible. Stay safe. At table 12, a businessman complained to his companion. My doctor put me on blood thinners last week. These new medications are killing my stomach. He reached for his third cup of coffee. Sarah's hand hesitated over his water glass. The words slipped out before she could stop them. Coffee can increase bleeding risk with warfarin. You might want to switch to decaf. The man looked up, startled. How did you? Just something I heard once, Sarah said quickly, backing away. Stupid. So stupid. She needed to keep her mouth shut. But the man smiled. Well, thank you. I'll switch. Her manager, Kevin, caught her arm later near the kitchen. Sarah, you can't give medical advice to customers. I wasn't. I know you're smart, but you're here to serve food, not play doctor. Okay. She nodded, swallowed the words that burned in her throat. I'm not playing. I am a doctor. 12:30 p.m. Her lunch break. Sarah sat in the staff room, staring at her phone's banking app. $412.73. Rent was $900, due in 5 days. Her second job at the bookstore paid on Friday. But that was cutting it close. Too close. Her worn leather journal sat beside her lunch, leftover rice sheet, cooked 3 days ago. The journal's cover was cracked, pages filled with her tight handwriting. She still documented things. Couldn't help it. Observations about customers, strange conversations she overheard, anything unusual. Old habits from the lab. When documenting everything meant the difference between breakthrough and failure. Except her breakthrough had been stolen, and documentation hadn't. Saved her. Sarah touched the journal's cover, then shoved it back in her bag. She had 4 more hours on her feet, then a closing shift tomorrow, then another double on Thursday. Her shoulders ached already, a deep exhaustion that lived in her bones now. 5 years of graduate school, 3 years of postdoctoral research, 8 years of her life spent becoming an expert in pharmacology. And here she was, earning $15.50 an hour plus tips, praying she'd make rent. The kitchen timer beeped. Break over. Sarah stood, straightened her apron, and walked back into the dining room, back to being invisible. She had no idea that in 3 days, staying invisible would become impossible. 7:15 p.m. The dinner rush was building when the energy in the waterfront room shifted. Kevin grabbed Sarah's arm, his grip tight. Michael Brennan just walked in. Table 1. Do not mess this up. Sarah's stomach dropped. She'd heard the name whispered among staff before. Tech billionaire. Owned half of Seattle's waterfront development. The kind of man who could shut down the restaurant with one bad review. Who's taking his table? Asked Jamie, the newest server. I am, said Marcus, already adjusting his tie. You all stay clear unless I need backup. Sarah watched from across the dining room as Michael Brennan entered. He didn't walk, he commanded space. 6 feet tall, silver hair styled perfectly. Wearing a charcoal suit that probably cost more than Sarah made in 6 months. 3 people followed him like satellites. 2 men in expensive suits and a woman with a tablet, typing frantically. Other diners noticed. Heads turned. A woman at table 8 whispered to her husband, pointing. A businessman stood, approaching Michael with an extended hand. But one of Michael's companions intercepted him smoothly. Not now. Power. That's what Michael Brennan radiated. The kind of power that didn't ask, it assumed. The hostess led him to table 1, the prime spot overlooking Elliott Bay. Michael's reserved table. Apparently, he dined here twice a week and always sat in the same place. Sarah refilled water at table 4, but her eyes tracked Michael. Old instincts kicking in. Observation. Assessment. His smile was practiced. Professional. The kind of smile that happened on command, not from genuine emotion. When he shook the hostess's hand, his eyes were already scanning the menu. Calculating. Water still not sparkling. And bring the wine list, Michael said, without looking at Marcus. Not rude, exactly. Just absent. Like Marcus was a function, not a person. Sarah had seen men like him before. In boardrooms. In laboratories. Men who believed their intelligence and wealth elevated them above normal social contracts. Men who didn't say please because they never had to. She remembered them from her old life. She'd worked alongside them, competed with them, been destroyed by them. The dinner progressed. Marcus moved around table 1 like a dancer, anticipating needs before they were spoken. Michael's conversation flowed, business talk, acquisitions, market projections. His voice carried across the dining room, confident and commanding. Then something unexpected happened. The busboy clearing table 2 backed into Michael's chair. Michael's phone slid from the table, clattering to the floor. The busboy froze, terrified. "I'm so sorry, sir. I didn't..." Michael picked up his phone, checked the screen, then looked at the busboy. Really looked at him. "It's fine. No harm done." Michael's voice softened. "Thank you for doing such a thorough job tonight." The busboy blinked, shocked. "Thank you, sir." It was a small moment. A crack in the armor. Sarah filed it away in her mental notes. Michael Brennan wasn't purely heartless, just selective about when he showed humanity. 8:20 p.m. Sarah was refilling coffee at table 7 when she noticed something odd. Michael pulled a small packet from his jacket pocket. Not sugar, not sweetener. Something else. He opened it carefully, poured the contents into his water glass, and stirred. The liquid turned a faint amber color. "His specialty," Marcus whispered, passing Sarah with a tray. "He brings it every time. Some expensive herbal thing. Won't drink anything else." Sarah watched Michael lift the glass, drink deeply, then set it down with satisfaction. The ritual had the feel of something important, something sacred to him. She couldn't see the packet clearly from his distance, but something about the amber color triggered a memory. Familiar. Why was it familiar? Before she could think more about it, Kevin called her name. 3 tables needed attention. Sarah pushed the observation aside and returned to work. She wouldn't think about that tea again until it was too late, until Michael Brennan was dying on the floor, and that amber liquid was spreading across marble like a poison. 8:47 p.m. Everything changed in the space of a heartbeat. Sarah was clearing table 9 when she heard the sound. A chair scraping violently against wood, a glass shattering. Then a man's voice strangled with pain. Something's wrong. She turned. Michael Brennan was halfway out of his chair, one hand pressed against his chest, the other gripping the table edge, so hard his knuckles went white. His face had gone gray. Sweat beaded on his forehead, running down his temples. His breath came in short, desperate gasps. "Michael?" The man sitting across from him, dark suit, sharp features, stood quickly. "Michael, what's happening?" "My chest. It's..." Michael's words cut off. He doubled over, a guttural sound escaping his throat. Pain. Pure, unfiltered pain. The teacup he'd been holding shattered against the floor. Amber liquid spread across white marble in a starburst pattern. Chaos erupted. Marcus ran for the phone. "I'm calling 911. The woman with the tablet rushed to Michael's side. "Sir, can you hear me? Sir?" Other diners stood, craning their necks. Someone screamed. Chairs scraped. The restaurant transformed from elegant sophistication to panic in seconds. Michael collapsed completely, his body hitting the floor with a sickening thud. His chest heaved. His hand clawed at his shirt, tearing the buttons open like the fabric was suffocating him. Sarah's training kicked in before conscious thought. She dropped her tray and moved toward him. But the dark-suited man, the one who'd been dining with Michael, was already there. "Everyone stay back. Give him space." Sarah stopped 3 feet away, her server's apron suddenly feeling like chains. She wasn't supposed to get involved. She was staff, invisible, but her eyes weren't invisible. Her brain wasn't invisible, and she saw everything. The shattered teacup, the amber residue, the specific way Michael's body convulsed: chest pain, respiratory distress, vascular constriction symptoms. Sarah's breath caught that smell: bitter almonds mixed with something else, something herbal and wrong. She knew that smell. Her mind raced backward 8 years to a Stanford laboratory, to compounds she'd studied, to plant derivatives and their chemical structures. Bitter, amber, cardiac symptoms. No, it couldn't be. Paramedics burst through the doors 4 minutes later. They moved with practiced efficiency, checking vitals, asking questions, loading Michael onto a stretcher. Blood pressure 180/120. One paramedic called. Heart rate 140. He's tachycardic. Any history of heart disease? The lead paramedic asked the dark-suited man. No, nothing. He's healthy. He runs marathons, for God's sake. What was he eating? Drinking? Just water. And his tea. His herbal tea he always drinks. Sarah's eyes locked on the table. The empty packet sat there, crumpled, beside Michael's abandoned wine glass. Small, silver wrapper. A logo she couldn't quite see from this distance. The paramedics were focused on Michael. The restaurant staff was frozen in shock. The dark-suited man was following the stretcher toward the door. No one was looking at the table. Sarah made a choice. She moved quickly, pulling out her phone. She angled it low, pretending to text, but her camera was pointed at the tea packet. Click, click, 2 photos. She zoomed in on the logo. Click. Sarah? Kevin's voice cracked like a whip. Clear that table. Now. She shoved her phone into her apron pocket and grabbed the bus tub. Her hands shook as she collected plates, glasses, silverware. The tea packet sat there, innocent and deadly. Sarah palmed it, slipping it into her apron with the practiced subtlety of someone who'd spent 3 years staying hidden. No one noticed. No one ever noticed the waitress. The bitter almond smell hit her fully now, and her stomach turned. She knew this compound. She'd studied it. She'd documented its effects in research papers that no longer bore her name. But it shouldn't be here. It shouldn't be in herbal tea. It shouldn't exist outside of controlled laboratory settings, unless someone put it there deliberately. Sarah looked up, searching for the dark-suited man. He stood by the entrance, phone pressed to his ear, speaking rapidly. But his face was calm, too calm. Everyone else in the restaurant looked horrified, shocked, terrified. But him? He looked focused, alert, like he was managing a crisis he'd expected. Sarah filed that observation away. The paramedics loaded Michael into the ambulance. Sirens wailed. Red and blue lights painted the restaurant windows. Kevin gathered the staff. Everyone were closing early. I need statements from anyone who saw what happened. Sarah cleaned mechanically, her mind 1,000 miles away. The tea packet burned in her pocket like evidence, like guilt. She should say something, tell someone, call the paramedics back. But who would listen to a waitress? And if she spoke up, if she revealed what she knew, they'd ask questions. How does a server recognize pharmaceutical compounds? Why does she know about toxic plant derivatives? They'd dig into her background. They'd find out who she really was. And then the people who destroyed her once would finish the job. So Sarah stayed silent. She finished her shift. She walked to the bus stop. She rode home in the dark, the tea packet heavy in her bag. And she told herself that Michael Brennan's fate wasn't her responsibility. But deep down, she knew the truth. In 72 hours, Seattle's best cardiologist would run 47 tests. All of them would come back normal, because they were looking for a heart problem. Sarah knew better. She knew exactly what was killing him, and she knew that if she didn't do something, Michael Brennan would be dead within a week. Seattle Medical Center, 11:23 p.m. Michael Brennan lay in a private suite on the cardiac floor, wires and monitors turning his body into a machine readout. His chest still burned. Every breath felt like fire. Dr. Marcus Reed stood at the foot of the bed, reviewing test results on his tablet. 53 years old, chief of cardiology, and utterly baffled. EKG is normal, he muttered. Troponin levels normal. No signs of myocardial infarction. Blood work is clean. Michael's business partner, Daniel Hayes, sat in the corner, still wearing his suit from dinner. Then what's causing the pain? I don't know yet. We'll run more tests in the morning. Stress test, angiogram, full cardiac workup. A nurse entered quietly. Dr. Reed, his pain level is increasing. Should I adjust the morphine? Yes. Increase by 2 milligrams. The nurse hesitated. Doctor, I noticed his symptoms are consistent with certain toxicological. I didn't ask for your diagnosis. Dr. Reed cut her off without looking up. I asked you to adjust the morphine. Please do your job. The nurse's jaw tightened, but she nodded and left. Daniel watched the exchange, then leaned forward. What aren't you telling me, Marcus? Nothing. I'm telling you everything we know, which right now is nothing. Dr. Reed's frustration bled through his professional demeanor. Michael's heart is fine. His lungs are fine. Every test we've run says he should be healthy, but clearly he's not. Michael groaned, his hand clutching at the sheets. Figured out, Daniel said quietly. Whatever costs, whatever you need. Michael can't afford to be sick right now. We have the merger closing in 3 weeks. Dr. Reed nodded and left the room, already calling for more tests. Daniel stayed behind, watching Michael suffer. And on his face, for just a moment, something flickered. Something that wasn't quite concern. 3 miles away, in a cramped studio apartment, Sarah Bennett couldn't sleep. She sat at her tiny kitchen table, the tea packet laid out on a paper towel like evidence at a crime scene. Her laptop screen glowed in the darkness, dozens of tabs open. Chemical composition databases, pharmaceutical journals, toxicology reports. Her hands shook as she typed. The packet's logo was small but distinctive. Vital Essence Botanicals. A quick search revealed it was a boutique wellness company, expensive, exclusive, sold primarily to wealthy clients who believed in natural healing. Natural, right? Sarah pulled on latex gloves. She still kept a box from her lab days and carefully opened the packet. A few grains of the tea remained inside. She touched her tongue to one grain, just barely, and spit it out. Bitter. Distinctly bitter with a metallic undertone. Her suspicions crystallized into certainty. She opened a new search. Cardiac symptoms plus bitter compound plus herbal preparation plus cumulative toxicity. The results made her blood run cold. There were 3 plant-derived compounds that fit this profile. 2 were well-known, heavily regulated, nearly impossible to obtain. The third was her compound, the one she discovered, the one that had been stolen. SNB 47. Synthetic narcotic blend. Iteration 47. It wasn't supposed to be a poison. It was supposed to be a breakthrough pain medication. But in her research, she documented a critical flaw. In doses above 50 milligrams daily, it accumulated in cardiac tissue and mimicked heart attack symptoms while causing no structural damage. Invisible to standard tests. She'd published warnings about it, recommended strict dosage controls, flagged it as potentially dangerous in unregulated forms. Then BioNexus Corp stole her research, discredited her, and apparently weaponized it. Sarah's laptop screen blurred as tears filled her eyes. Her work, her life's work, being used to kill someone. Her phone buzzed. A text from Kevin. Sarah, good news. We got a catering gig at Seattle Medical. Private hospital consultation tomorrow, 2 p.m. Need you there. Good tips. Sarah stared at the message. Seattle Medical, where Michael Brennan was being treated. She typed back, I'll be there. The memories came without warning. Stanford University. 5 years ago. Sarah in a white lab coat, pipette in hand, watching compound SNB. 47 crystallized in a beaker. "This is it," her colleague Dr. James Park had said, leaning over her shoulder. "This could revolutionize pain management." Sarah had smiled then, actually smiled. "If we can stabilize the dosage." The accumulation factor is concerning. She'd spent another year perfecting it, documenting every variable, being careful, being thorough. Then Marcus Chun from BioNexus Corp had visited. Charming, interested, asking detailed questions. Too detailed. 3 weeks later, her lab experienced a contamination incident. Samples destroyed, data corrupted, and somehow Sarah was blamed, accused of falsifying results. Her research advisor had turned on her. Colleagues who'd praised her work suddenly claimed they'd always had doubts. The university investigation took 9 months. By the end, she was cleared of wrongdoing. But her reputation was destroyed, and BioNexus Corp filed a patent for SNB 47 under their name, claimed they developed it independently. Sarah had tried to fight, hired a lawyer she couldn't afford, but BioNexus had money, power. They buried her in legal motions until she had nothing left. She'd left Stanford broken, changed her name slightly, Sarah Elizabeth Bennett instead of Sarah E. Mitchell Bennett, and disappeared. Sarah closed her laptop, the flashback fading. Tomorrow, she'd walk into Seattle Medical Center. She'd deliver food to doctors who would treat her like furniture. And she'd have to decide, stay hidden and let Michael Brennan die, or speak up and risk everything. Sarah's about to make a choice that could cost her everything. Would you speak up or stay hidden? Drop your answer below because what she decides will change both of their lives forever. 2:14 p.m. Seattle Medical Center. Sarah pushed a catering cart through sterile white hallways, following the hospital coordinator to the executive conference room. Her server's uniform felt like armor now. Protection through invisibility. VIP consultation for Michael Brennan, the coordinator explained. His doctors are reviewing cases with specialists from Johns Hopkins. Just set up the coffee service and leave. They don't like interruptions. Sarah nodded, her heart hammering. The conference room was empty when she arrived. She worked quickly, coffee urn cups, sandwiches arranged on silver platters, water glasses positioned precisely. Through the windows she could see Elliott Bay, the same view from the waterfront room. Strange how her whole life now revolved around watching the same stretch of water from different positions of servitude. She was turning to leave when she spotted it. A suit jacket draped over a chair. Expensive fabric. A monogrammed label visible on the collar. MJB. Michael J. Brennan. Sarah's hand hovered over the cart handle. She should leave. She should walk away right now. But Michael was dying, and she was the only person who knew why. Her feet moved before her brain approved. 3 steps to the chair. Her hands were shaking as she reached for the jacket pocket. Keys, wallet, and her fingers closed around a familiar shape, a tea packet, identical to the one in her apartment. Sarah pulled it out, holding it up to the light. The logo confirmed it. Vital Essence Botanicals. But this packet had something the other didn't. A small printed label with dosage instructions. Drink twice daily for optimal wellness. Twice daily. For how long? How many packets had Michael consumed? How much SNB 47 was accumulated in his system? She turned the packet over, looking for ingredients. The list was deliberately vague. Proprietary blend of Eastern herbs and minerals. Proprietary. Translation. Hidden. Untraceable. Her pharmacological training took over. She mentally calculated dosages, absorption rates, cumulative toxicity levels. If Michael had been drinking this twice a day for even 3 months, what are you doing? Sarah spun around, the tea packet slipping from her fingers. Dr. Marcus Reed stood in the doorway, his expression transforming from surprise to cold anger in seconds. I was just, Sarah stammered. Going through a patient's personal belongings? Dr. Reed strode forward, snatching the jacket from her hands. That's theft. I could have you arrested. No, you don't understand. I was trying to help. That tea. You were trying to help? Dr. Reed's voice dripped with condescension. He looked her up and down, taking in her server's uniform, her cheap shoes, her insignificance. And how exactly does a waitress plan to help with a complex cardiac case? Sarah's throat tightened. The word she needed to say fought against 3 years of training herself to stay silent. Speak up. Tell him. Save Michael's life. But Reed's expression stopped her. Pure dismissal. The same look she'd seen on the faces of the men who destroyed her career. The look that said, you are nothing. Your words have no value. I recognize the compound in that tea, Sarah said anyway, forcing her voice steady. It's not herbal. It's synthetic. It causes cardiac symptoms through cumulative toxicity, and standard tests won't detect it. Dr. Reed stared at her for a long moment. Then he laughed. Actually laughed. You recognize the compound. You. He shook his head. Let me guess. You read an article on the internet? Watched a documentary? I have a PhD in pharmacology from Stanford. I've published 17 papers on pain medication derivatives, including... Stop. Dr. Reed held up his hand. I don't know what game you're playing, but I don't have time for it. Security. Please just listen. Run a mass spectrometry test on that tea. Look for synthetic compounds, not natural ones. The chemical signature. Security. Dr. Reed's voice boomed. 2 security guards appeared within seconds. This woman was going through patient belongings. I want her removed from the building immediately. Sir, I'm with the catering company. Sarah tried. I don't care. Escort her out and contact her employer. I want assurances she won't be assigned to this hospital again. The guards took her arms, not roughly, but firmly. Sarah's eyes darted past Dr. Reed to the room beyond. Through another door, she could see Michael Brennan lying on an examination table. Electrodes attached to his chest. Doctors surrounding him, speaking in low tones. He looked worse than at the restaurant. Gray skin, hollow eyes. His hand clutched his chest even in the hospital gown. He was dying, slowly, invisibly, and she was being dragged away from the one chance to save him. That tea is killing him, Sarah said desperately as the guards pulled her toward the hallway. In 3 days, maybe 4, the cumulative dose will cause organ failure. You're looking for a disease, but it's a poison. Please. Dr. Reed turned his back on her. The guards walked her through the hospital corridors, past nurses who wouldn't meet her eyes, past patients who looked away. Invisible again, irrelevant again. They deposited her at the front entrance. Don't come back, one guard said, not unkindly. Doctor's orders. Sarah stood on the sidewalk, her catering uniform suddenly feeling like a costume. A disguise she'd worn so long she'd almost forgotten who she really was. Her phone buzzed. A text from Kevin. Hospital called. You're fired from catering assignments. What did you do? Sarah stared at the message. Another income stream gone. Rent already impossible. And now this. She looked back at the hospital building, gleaming glass and steel, where Michael Brennan was dying because no one would listen to a waitress. They thought she was nobody. They were wrong. Because Sarah Bennett had 2 PhDs, 8 years of pharmaceutical research, and a photographic memory. And she'd just recognized something that would change everything. The compound in that tea wasn't just any poison. It was hers, her research, her work, her creation, stolen 3 years ago and now weaponized. Someone was murdering Michael Brennan using Sarah's own breakthrough, and she was the only person in the world who could prove it. 9:47 p.m., the night after her hospital humiliation. Sarah stood outside a University of Washington research building, holding the tea packet like it was evidence at a murder trial, which she supposed it was. She pressed the buzzer for Lab 304. A voice crackled through the intercom. "Yeah, it's Sarah. You still owe me a favor." A pause. Then, "Come up." Dr. Lisa Chun met her at the lab door. They'd been colleagues once back when Sarah was Dr. Sarah Mitchell Bennett, and the world made sense. Lisa was one of the few people who'd believed Sarah's side of a story when everything fell apart. "I wasn't sure I'd ever see you again," Lisa said, ushering her inside. The lab smelled like Sarah's old life, chemicals and possibility. "I need a favor, a big one." Lisa looked at the tea packet Sarah held out. "What am I looking at?" "Poison, I think. But I need you to confirm it. Full mass spectrometry analysis. I need to know every compound in this blend." "Sarah, I can't just—" "A man is dying. Doctors think it's his heart, but it's not. It's this tea. And I think—" Sarah's voice caught. "I think it contains my research. The stolen research." Lisa's expression shifted from hesitation to determination. "Give it to me." For the next 3 hours, Sarah watched Lisa work. Machines hummed. Computers processed data. The familiar rhythm of laboratory investigation wrapped around Sarah like a blanket she'd forgotten she missed. At 12:43 a.m., Lisa printed the results. "You were right," Lisa said quietly, handing Sarah the paper. "This isn't herbal tea. I mean, there are herbal components, chamomile, valerian root, some others. But there's also something synthetic, something I've never seen before." Sarah's hands shook as she read the chemical breakdown. Right there. SNB 47. Her compound. Her creation. But modified. Someone had altered the molecular structure slightly, made it more lipophilic, increased its cardiac tissue absorption rate. They'd weaponized it. This compound, Lisa pointed to the readout, it's designed to accumulate small doses over time, building up in the body, causes cardiac symptoms that mimic heart disease. But standard tests won't catch it because there's no actual structural damage, just interference with electrical conductivity. "How long?" Sarah asked. "How long before it kills him?" Lisa ran calculations on her computer. If he's been taking this twice daily for, let's say 6 months, he's probably at 85% saturation. Maybe 3 more days before critical organ failure. 3 days. Sarah pulled out her worn leather journal, flipping to pages from 5 years ago. Her original research notes, handwritten, dated, witnessed. She'd kept them when everything else was destroyed. Old habit. Document everything. She compared her notes to the current analysis. The modification was deliberate, sophisticated. Whoever did this understood her work intimately. This wasn't random corporate theft. This was targeted weaponization. Who would do this? Lisa asked. Someone who knew my research. Someone with access to BioNexus Corp's stolen files. Someone who wanted to kill Michael Brennan slowly enough that no one would suspect murder. Sarah's phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. Then hello. "Dr. Bennett?" A woman's voice, professional, nervous. "My name is Jennifer Park. I'm Michael Brennan's executive assistant. We need to talk." They met at an all-night diner 2 blocks from Sarah's apartment. Jennifer was mid-40s, sharply dressed even at 1 a.m., with a look of someone who carried other people's secrets professionally. "How did you find me?" Sarah asked. "I've been watching you," Jennifer admitted. "At the restaurant, at the hospital. I saw what happened. I heard what you tried to tell Dr. Reed. Then you know I'm not crazy. I know you're terrified. I know you're trying to help. And I know something's been wrong with Mr. Brennan for months." Jennifer leaned forward. "I've worked for Michael for 12 years. I've seen him face corporate takeovers, market crashes, personal disasters. Nothing shakes him. But lately, he's different. Paranoid, in pain. And Daniel Hayes has been—" She paused, choosing words carefully. "Involved." "Involved how?" 6 months ago, Daniel came back from a wellness retreat. He discovered this miracle tea that supposedly helped with stress, energy, focus. He was obsessed with it, gave packets to everyone at the company. Most people tried it once and forgot about it. But Daniel kept pushing Michael specifically. You work too hard. You need this. It'll help your performance. Michael finally agreed to try it. Sarah's stomach turned, and within 2 weeks, Michael was hooked. Said it was the only thing that helped him focus. Started drinking it twice a day, religiously. Carried packets everywhere. Jennifer's voice dropped, and that's when the health problems started. Chest pain, fatigue. But whenever Michael suggested stopping the tea, Daniel would have reasons why he shouldn't. It's detox symptoms. Your body is adjusting. You can't quit now, or you'll lose the benefits. Classic poisoning protocol. Create dependency while administering the toxin. Why are you telling me this? Sarah asked. Because yesterday, after the hospital incident, Daniel told Michael you were dangerous, that you'd been stalking him, that you'd made threats. Jennifer met Sarah's eyes. But I was there at the restaurant when Michael collapsed. I saw your face. You weren't planning that. You were shocked, and you looked at that tea like you recognized something. I did, because I invented the compound that's killing him. Jennifer blinked. What? Sarah explained. Not everything, not yet, but enough. The stolen research, the synthetic compound, the slow poisoning. Daniel is murdering Michael, Sarah finished. Using my work to do it. Jennifer sat back, processing. Daniel's next in line for CEO if Michael dies. And there's a life insurance policy. $50 million. Daniel set it up 2 years ago. Said it was standard corporate procedure. Michael signed without reading the details. Motive. Clear financial motive. I need to get to Michael directly, Sarah said. Can you arrange that? He won't listen. Not after Daniel's convinced him you're unstable. Jennifer hesitated. But there might be another way. Michael has a daughter. They're estranged. But she's the only person whose opinion he might trust over Daniel's. Where is she? Boston. She works in pharmaceutical ethics. Actually, ironic considering her father's company. Pharmaceutical ethics. Boston. A memory stirred. A young graduate student in Sarah's lab. Quiet. Brilliant. Always taking notes. Emily Brennan, Sarah whispered. She was my student. Michael Brennan sat in his penthouse office, chest burning, staring at security footage on his laptop. The waitress, Sarah, captured on hospital cameras, going through his jacket, taking something. This is concerning, Daniel said, standing behind Michael's chair. First a restaurant, now breaking hospital security protocols. This woman is fixated on you. Michael rubbed his chest. The pain was constant now, even with the medication. Why would a waitress target me? Could be anything. People sue billionaires for attention. Maybe she's planning some false claim, trying to set up a harassment case. Or Daniel paused dramatically. Maybe she's genuinely unstable. Michael's paranoia, fed by pain and exhaustion, latched onto the suggestion. He'd build his empire by identifying threats early. And Sarah, whoever she was, definitely felt like a threat. I want additional security, Michael said. Already arranged, and I've contacted the restaurant. She's been flagged. If she comes near you again, police will be called. Michael nodded, then winced as another spike of pain shot through his chest. You need to rest, Daniel said, his voice carefully concerned. This stress isn't helping your condition. The doctors can't figure out what's wrong. They will. But meanwhile, you need to maintain your wellness routine. Have you been drinking your tea? Michael glanced at the packet on his desk. Part of him was sick of the tea. But Daniel was right. It was the only thing that seemed to help him focus through the pain. Twice a day, Michael confirmed. Good. Consistency is key. After Daniel left, Michael sat alone in his office, the Seattle skyline glittering beyond his windows. His empire spread below him. Buildings, businesses, billions in assets. But he felt weak, vulnerable, human in ways he hadn't felt in decades. His hand drifted to his desk drawer. He pulled out a photograph, creased from handling. Emily, his daughter, 28 now, though in this picture she was barely 20. Graduation day from her master's program. She wasn't smiling at the camera. She was looking away toward someone out of frame. Even then, their relationship had been strained. He'd missed too many moments, chosen work over presence. By the time he tried to reconnect, the damage was done. She'd moved to Boston, built a life that deliberately didn't include him. His greatest success, his greatest failure. The intercom buzzed. Jennifer's voice. "Sir, you have a call from Dr. Reed's office. Follow-up appointment scheduled." "Thank you." Michael set the photograph back in the drawer, hiding it like he hid most of his regrets. Jennifer returned to his office an hour later with his evening tea, prepared exactly how he liked it. "Sir," she said carefully, "about that waitress. What if she was trying to help?" Michael looked up, surprised. Jennifer rarely questioned his decisions. "Daniel showed me the footage." "I saw the footage too, sir, and I saw her face. She looked scared, not malicious. What if she knows something the doctors don't?" "She's a waitress, Jennifer." "Is she?" Jennifer set the tea down. "Did anyone actually investigate who she is? Check her background?" Michael frowned. He'd assumed, they'd all assumed, that Sarah was exactly what she appeared to be, a server. No one important. "I'll have security look into it," Michael said finally. But even as he said it, another pain spike stole his breath. He reached for the tea, drinking deeply, letting the familiar bitterness ground him. Jennifer watched him drink, something complicated crossing her face. "Sir, be careful," she said softly. "I'm always careful." But Michael knew that wasn't true anymore. He was sick, getting sicker, and he had no idea why. And somewhere in his mind, beneath the pain and paranoia, a small voice whispered a question he couldn't quite articulate. What if the waitress was right? 6 days after the collapse, Michael Brennan walked into the waterfront room, feeling like a ghost of himself. The doctors had released him with a diagnosis of stress-induced atypical angina and a prescription for pain management. They told him to reduce his workload, practice meditation, maybe see a therapist. They'd found nothing physically wrong. Every test came back clean. But Michael knew his body. This wasn't stress. This was dying. Still, business couldn't stop. Daniel had arranged this dinner. Potential investors for their next acquisition. Michael needed to appear strong, capable, in control, even if he felt like he was barely holding himself together. Kevin, the restaurant manager, greeted him personally. "Mr. Brennan, welcome back. Your table is ready." Michael noticed Kevin's nervousness, the way staff whispered as he passed. They remembered his collapse, probably thought he was fragile now. He hated it. Daniel waited at table 1, along with 2 executives Michael had never met. The conversation flowed, projections, market analysis, investment timelines. Michael contributed where needed, but his mind kept drifting. The pain in his chest was worse tonight. The medication barely touched it anymore. He reached into his jacket, pulled out his tea packet, and signaled the server for hot water. Movement in his peripheral vision. A figure in black server's uniform. Sarah. Michael's body tensed. What was she doing here? He'd been assured she was banned from working his tables. Sarah approached directly, no pretense of service. Her face was pale but determined. "Mr. Brennan," she said quietly, "I need 60 seconds of your time. Please." Daniel's head snapped up. "You." Security. But Sarah ignored him, focusing entirely on Michael. "The tea you're about to drink is killing you. It contains a synthetic compound that accumulates in cardiac tissue. It mimics heart disease symptoms. which is why the doctors can't find anything structurally wrong. But in approximately 3 more days, you'll reach critical toxicity. Your organs will begin shutting down. The table went silent. Michael stared at her. Part of him wanted to call security. Part of him transfixed by the specificity of her words. "This is harassment," Daniel stood, his voice sharp. "Kevin, get her away from this table now." Kevin appeared, looking panicked. "Sarah, you can't be here. You were told." "I don't care what I was told." Sarah's voice cut through the restaurant noise, clear and scientific. "I have a PhD in pharmacology from Stanford University. I've spent 8 years studying pain medication derivatives and their cardiotoxic properties. That tea contains a modified version of a compound I personally developed. I recognize it because I invented it." Michael's hand, reaching for the tea packet, froze. "This is insane," Daniel said. But there was something in his voice. A crack. Sarah turned to him. "Is it? Then why has Mr. Brennan's health deteriorated exactly in proportion to his consumption of a product your wellness company provided? Why did you push him specifically to use this brand? And why does the compound in that tea match the chemical signature of research stolen from me 3 years ago by Bionexus Corp? The same Bionexus that's now a subsidiary of Brennan Analytics." The other executives exchanged glances. Daniel's face went red. This woman has been stalking Mr. Brennan for weeks. She photographed his belongings at the hospital. She's made repeated contact despite being warned away. "Kevin, I'm calling the police if she's not removed immediately." "Do it," Sarah said. Her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. "Call them. I'll wait. And while they're coming, I'll explain exactly how Daniel Hayes has been slowly poisoning Michael Brennan using stolen pharmaceutical research. I have lab results. I have documentation. I have proof." Kevin looked between Sarah and Daniel, completely out of his depth. I need to call the owner." "No," Michael said quietly. Everyone turned to him. "Let her speak." "Michael, she's clearly unwell." Daniel started. "I said let her speak." Sarah pulled papers from her apron pocket, folded lab reports, printed emails, photocopies of research notes. She laid them on the table like evidence. "My name is Dr. Sarah Elizabeth Mitchell-Bennett. 3 years ago, I was a lead researcher at Stanford working on breakthrough pain management compounds. My work was stolen by Bionexus Corp through corporate espionage. I was framed for a lab contamination incident and my career was destroyed. I came to Seattle to disappear. I took a job here serving food, trying to stay hidden from the people who ruined my life." Michael looked at the papers. Scientific formulas, chemical structures, documentation stamped with Stanford University letterhead. 2 weeks ago, you collapsed in this restaurant. I saw the tea you were drinking. I recognized the smell. A compound that shouldn't exist outside controlled laboratory settings. I took a sample to a colleague for analysis. Sarah pointed to the lab report. Those results confirm what I suspected. Your herbal wellness tea contains SNB47, the synthetic compound I developed, modified into a cardiac poison. "This is ridiculous," Daniel said, but his voice had lost its confidence. "Michael, you're not seriously listening to." "Why would I lie?" Sarah interrupted. "What would I gain? I've lost my job here. I'll probably be arrested for trespassing. I'm risking everything by speaking up, but you're dying, and I'm the only person who knows why." Michael's fingers touched the tea packet. Something in her eyes, desperation, yes, but also truth. The kind of truth that came from expertise, not delusion. "Check my credentials," Sarah continued. "Dr. Sarah Bennett, Stanford. My research papers are published. My patents are on record. Well, they were until Bionexus stole them. Everything I'm telling you can be verified. But you don't have time for lengthy investigations. In 3 days, maybe less, the accumulated toxicity will cause irreversible damage." The restaurant had gone completely silent. Other diners watched. Staff huddled by the kitchen entrance. Michael looked at Daniel. Really looked at him. Daniel's face showed outrage, shock, denial. But beneath it, something else flickered. Fear? Daniel, Michael said slowly. How did you discover this tea brand? A wellness retreat, I told you. Which retreat? Where? It was 2 years ago. I don't remember the name. 2 years ago, you were negotiating the BioNexus acquisition for me. Michael's mind, even clouded with pain, could still connect dots. You had full access to their research files. Daniel's mouth opened, closed. Sarah, Michael said, using her first name for the first time, who modified the compound, who weaponized your research. Someone with intimate knowledge of my work. Someone with access to BioNexus's files. Someone with motive to kill you slowly enough that it would look like natural causes. Michael's eyes never left Daniel's face. This is insane, Daniel repeated. But now his voice was weak. Michael, we've been friends for 20 years. Have we? Michael's hand went to his chest, where pain burned constantly. Or have you been positioning yourself to take over my company? How much life insurance did you convince me to sign, Daniel? What's the payout when I die? Silence. Sarah spoke quietly. $50 million, plus automatic succession to CEO. I checked the corporate documents. They're public record. Daniel's face crumbled. You don't understand. You were never supposed to. He stopped himself, realizing what he'd almost admitted. The words hung in the air like a confession. Kevin found his voice. I'm calling the police. Yes, Michael said, his voice cold as winter. Do that. Daniel, sit down. You're not leaving. But Daniel was already moving, pushing past Sarah, heading for the exit. Stop him, someone shouted. 2 busboys and a line cook blocked the door. Daniel tried to push through, but suddenly everyone was moving. Staff, customers, everyone who'd witnessed the confrontation. Michael stood, the movement sending pain through his chest. But he didn't care. He looked at Sarah, really saw her for the first time. Not a waitress, a scientist, a woman he'd wronged without even knowing it. I'm sorry, he said. Sarah shook her head. Save the apology. Just stop drinking that tea. I'll give you the contact information for a toxicologist who can help flush the compound from your system. But you need to start treatment today, not tomorrow. Today. Sirens wailed in the distance. Kevin appeared beside Sarah, his face stricken. Sarah, I didn't know. I'm so sorry. I fired you, and you were trying to... It's fine. Sarah cut him off, exhausted. You didn't know. But it wasn't fine. Sarah felt her hands shaking, her pulse hammering, cold sweat running down her back. She'd just exposed herself to everyone. The police would come. There would be questions, investigations. The people who destroyed her career would find out where she was. But Michael Brennan was alive, and Daniel Hayes was caught. Maybe that was enough. Michael's hand reached out not to shake Sarah's hand, but to support himself against the table. He looked terrible, gray skin, hollow eyes, trembling. How long, he asked. How long before the compound leaves my system? With proper medical intervention? 2 weeks for initial recovery. 3 months for complete clearance. You'll need chelation therapy, liver support, cardiac monitoring. Sarah's clinical knowledge took over. The damage isn't permanent yet, but you were close. Very close. Michael nodded slowly, then looked at the tea packet still sitting on the table. His miracle wellness drink, his murder weapon. He picked it up, stared at it for a long moment, then set it down carefully, as far from himself as the table allowed. I was going to drink it, he said quietly. Right before you walked over, I was reaching for it. I know, you saved my life. I did my job, what I was trained to do. Sarah's voice cracked slightly. What I should have been doing all along, if your company hadn't destroyed my career. The truth of it settled between them. Complicated, painful, unresolved. Police flooded through the entrance. And Sarah stood there, still in her server's uniform, no longer invisible, watching her carefully constructed hiding place shatter completely. She'd saved a life, but she'd lost her safety, and she had no idea what came next. 2:47 a.m. Sarah's apartment. The police had questioned her for 4 hours, taken her statement, collected the tea packet as evidence. They'd arrested Daniel Hayes for attempted murder, though his lawyers would probably have him out by morning. Now Sarah sat alone in her studio apartment, staring at eviction notices on her tiny kitchen table. 3 days overdue on rent. Fired from both jobs. No income. No prospects. And her name, her real name, was about to be plastered across every news outlet in Seattle. She'd stayed hidden for 3 years. 3 years of careful invisibility, destroyed in one night. Sarah's phone buzzed. Text after text from numbers she didn't recognize. Journalists, probably. News stations. People who'd heard the story and wanted details. She turned the phone off. Her reflection stared back at her from the darkened window. She looked exhausted, defeated. Maybe she should have stayed quiet. Let Michael die. Protected herself. The thought made her sick. I couldn't, she whispered to the empty apartment. I'm a doctor. I couldn't just watch someone die. But the cost. God, the cost. Sarah's eyes drifted to her leather journal, sitting on the table beside the eviction notices. She picked it up, running her fingers over the worn cover. 3 years of observations. 3 years of documenting her survival. Before that, 8 years of her real life. She opened to pages from the beginning. Notes from Stanford. Research diagrams. The breakthrough that should have made her career. Instead, it had destroyed her. 5 years ago. Stanford University Chemical Engineering Lab. Dr. Sarah Mitchell Bennett stood before a breakthrough that would change everything. SNB-47. A synthetic compound derived from plant alkaloids, designed to target specific pain receptors without the addiction profile of opioids. Revolutionary. Life-saving. She'd spent 3 years developing it, testing, refining, documenting every step meticulously. This is Nobel Prize material, her research advisor, Dr. Patricia Wong, had said. Sarah, you're changing medicine. The clinical trials were successful. Pain management without dependency. The pharmaceutical world took notice. Then Marcus Chun from BioNexus Corp visited. Charming, interested, asking detailed questions about her methodology, her synthesis process, her modifications to the base compound. Sarah had been excited to share, naive enough to believe in collaborative science. 3 weeks later, everything fell apart. A lab contamination incident. Samples destroyed. Equipment compromised. The investigation pointed to Sarah, improper storage protocols, negligent safety procedures. Sarah knew it was a lie. She was meticulous, obsessive about lab safety. But BioNexus provided evidence. Emails she'd never sent. Documentation she'd never signed. Witnesses who claimed they'd seen her cutting corners. Her research advisor turned against her. I always had concerns about your work, Sarah. The contamination doesn't surprise me. Colleagues who'd praised her suddenly remembered red flags. The university launched an ethics investigation. While Sarah fought to clear her name, BioNexus filed a patent for SNB-47 under their name, claiming independent development. Sarah hired a lawyer. They stole my research. Can you prove it? I have my lab notebooks, my original notes. So do they. And they have a team of lawyers. This will cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. Do you have that? She didn't. The university investigation took 9 months. They eventually cleared her of wrongdoing, but the damage was done. Her reputation was destroyed. No lab would hire her. Her papers were retracted. Her career was over at 31. And BioNexus? They moved forward with SNB-47, rebranding it, preparing for market release. Sarah had two choices: spend the rest of her life fighting a legal battle she couldn't afford, or disappear. She disappeared, changed her name slightly, dropped the Mitchell, kept Bennett, left California, came to Seattle, found work that didn't require background checks or references, became invisible. Sarah closed the journal, that old anger burning fresh. But now something had changed. She opened her laptop, running searches she'd avoided for 3 years. BioNexus Corporation, acquired 2 years ago by Brennan Analytics, Michael Brennan's company. Sarah's hands froze on the keyboard. Michael owned BioNexus. He owned the company that stole her work, destroyed her career, weaponized her research. And Daniel Hayes, she searched deeper, had been the lead negotiator on that acquisition. He'd had full access to BioNexus's research files, including her work, the tea supplier. She found it buried in subsidiary corporate documents. Vital Essence Botanicals, a BioNexus wellness division, created 1 year ago, created by Daniel Hayes. The pieces fell into place like a chemical formula. Daniel had found her research in the BioNexus files, recognized its potential as a weapon, modified it, weaponized it, created a company to distribute it, then slowly, methodically, poisoned his business partner using the stolen work of a woman Michael had inadvertently helped destroy. It was poetic in the cruelest possible way. Sarah sat back, her mind racing. This wasn't random. This was conspiracy, corporate espionage, murder, fraud. And she was the only person who could prove it, because she was the only person who understood the research well enough to trace its modifications. Her phone buzzed again. She turned it back on. One text stood out from a noise. From Lisa Chin, her lab tech friend. Sarah, I did more analysis on that compound. The modifications are sophisticated. Only someone with your research notes could have done this. Be careful. Another text. Unknown number. Dr. Bennett, this is Jennifer Park, Michael Brennan's assistant. We need to talk. I have information about Daniel Hayes that you need to see. Sarah stared at the messages. She could run, pack tonight, leave Seattle, disappear again. Or she could fight. 3 years ago, she'd run because she was alone, powerless, broke. But now, Michael Brennan knew the truth. The police had evidence. Daniel was in custody, and Sarah had documentation of everything. She pulled out her journal or lab reports, her original research notes. She'd kept them all, every piece of proof that SNB 47 was hers. She made a choice, not revenge, justice. She'd save Michael's life, already done. But she'd also expose the conspiracy, clear her name, reclaim her work, and maybe, just maybe, prevent this from happening to anyone else. Sarah opened her laptop and started writing. An email to her old research advisor, another to the Stanford Ethics Board, another to the FDA, flagging Vital Essence Botanicals for investigation. Then she called Lisa. I need your help. Full documentation of the tea analysis. Every compound, every modification, every piece of data. Can you do that? Already done. Sending it to you now. Thank you. Sarah, be careful. If Daniel modified your research, he knows you're the only person who can expose him. I know. That's why I need to move fast. Sarah hung up and texted Jennifer. I'll meet with you. Tomorrow, 10 a.m. But I'm bringing documentation and I'm recording everything. Jennifer's response came immediately. Agreed. I have evidence too. About Daniel. And about Michael's daughter. Daughter? Sarah pulled up Michael's corporate bio. Family section. 1 daughter. Emily Brennan, 28, pharmaceutical ethics consultant based in Boston. Pharmaceutical ethics. Boston. Sarah's memory stirred. A graduate student. Quiet. Brilliant. Always sitting in the back of Sarah's lectures, taking meticulous notes. Emily Brennan. She'd been in Sarah's lab 5 years ago. She'd been there the day Marcus Chun from BioNexus visited. She'd been there when everything started falling apart. Sarah searched for Emily's professional profile, found her on a pharmaceutical ethics networking site. She sent a message. "Emily, this is Dr. Sarah Bennett. You were my graduate student 5 years ago. I don't know if you remember me, but I need to talk to you about your father, Michael Brennan, and about what happened at Stanford. It's urgent." Sarah hit send before she could second-guess herself. The response came 14 minutes later. "Dr. Bennett, I've thought about contacting you for 3 years. I witnessed what they did to you. I knew it was wrong, but I was afraid. I'm so sorry. Yes, let's talk about my father and about BioNexus. I know things you need to know." Sarah's breath caught. Emily knew. She'd witnessed the theft and stayed silent. Guilt, fear, the same things that had kept Sarah hiding for 3 years. But now they had a chance to make it right. Sarah typed back, "Can you come to Seattle? Your father is in danger, and I need your help reaching him. I'll book a flight tonight." Sarah closed her laptop and looked around her tiny apartment. The eviction notices, the empty refrigerator, the life she'd built from nothing. She might lose it all, but she'd already lost everything once before. This time, she wouldn't lose quietly. The next morning, Sarah met Jennifer at a coffee shop far from downtown Seattle. Jennifer brought files, physical files, printed and organized with the precision of someone who'd prepared for this moment. "I've been documenting Daniel's behavior for 8 months, Jennifer said, spreading papers across the table. "I didn't know what I was seeing at first. Just inconsistencies, things that felt wrong." Sarah scanned the documents, expense reports, travel records, corporate emails. "Daniel created Vital Essence Botanicals 14 months ago," Jennifer explained. "Claimed it was a side venture. Kept it separate from Brennan Analytics. But look at the funding sources." Sarah followed Jennifer's finger across a financial spreadsheet. Shell companies, offshore accounts, money laundering through wellness product sales. "He's been siphoning funds from Brennan Analytics for over a year," Jennifer continued. "Small amounts, impossible to trace unless you're looking for patterns. I only noticed because I processed Michael's expense reports. Daniel's spending didn't match his stated income." Sarah pulled out her own documentation, the lab analysis, the compound breakdown. "This tea isn't just poisoning Michael," Sarah said. "It's funding Daniel's exit strategy. He's been building a separate company using stolen research, positioning himself to take over when Michael dies, then liquidating everything and disappearing with millions." Jennifer nodded grimly. "There's more. Life insurance. Daniel convinced Michael to sign a policy 2 years ago. $50 million payout, with Daniel listed as secondary beneficiary after Emily. But Emily and Michael haven't spoken in 5 years. Daniel probably assumed she wouldn't contest anything, would take her portion and leave in the company. Why haven't they spoken?" Jennifer hesitated. Michael chose work over family, missed important moments. Emily's mother died when Emily was 16, cancer. Michael threw himself into business instead of grief. By the time he tried to reconnect, Emily had built walls he couldn't climb. The tragedy of wealth and emotional bankruptcy. Sarah thought about Michael's face last night, the moment he'd realized someone he trusted had been killing him. "Does Michael know about Daniel's embezzling?" Sarah asked. "Not yet. The police are investigating, but financial crimes take time. The attempted murder charge is more immediate." Sarah's phone buzzed. A text from Lisa. "Sarah, you need to see this." An attached file. More analysis of the T compound. Sarah opened it, scanning the technical data, and her blood went cold. "What?" Jennifer asked. "The T isn't just for Michael. Lisa found batch variations. Same base compound, but different concentrations. Daniel has been producing multiple versions. Sarah looked up, horrified. He's been selling this to other people. This was never just about killing Michael. It's a business. Jennifer's face went pale. How many people? I don't know. But if Vital Essence Botanicals has been operating for 14 months, distributing to wealthy clients who trust exclusive wellness products. Sarah couldn't finish the sentence. Dozens of people, maybe hundreds, all slowly poisoned by her stolen research. Sarah stood abruptly. We need to go to the FDA, the FBI. This is bigger than attempted murder. This is mass distribution of an unregulated pharmaceutical compound. Wait, Jennifer grabbed her arm. There's something else. Emily called me this morning. She's landing in Seattle in 3 hours. She wants to see her father, and she wants to talk to you. About what? About what she witnessed 5 years ago at Stanford. She says she has evidence about the BioNexus theft. Sarah's heart hammered. Why didn't she come forward before? She was afraid. She just started her career. BioNexus threatened her. Said if she spoke up, they'd destroy her reputation like they destroyed yours. She was 23, terrified, and she made the wrong choice. The pragmatic part of Sarah understood. The wounded part wanted to be angry. Will Michael see her? I already arranged it. His penthouse, 5 p.m. He doesn't know you're coming, but he needs to hear everything from both of you. That afternoon, Sarah returned to her apartment to find a notice on her door. Not eviction, something else. FBI. Search warrant. Her door was open. Agents inside, photographing, documenting, searching. Dr. Bennett? A woman in an FBI jacket approached. Special Agent Rodriguez. We have questions about Daniel Hayes and BioNexus Corporation. For the next 2 hours, Sarah told them everything. The theft, the compound, the weaponization. She provided her research notes, her original documentation, Lisa's analysis results. We'll need you to testify, Agent Rodriguez said. I will, but you need to shut down Vital Essence Botanicals immediately. Every product they've distributed contains an unregulated pharmaceutical compound. People are being poisoned. We're coordinating with the FDA. Raids are happening tonight. Sarah nodded, exhausted. One more thing, Agent Rodriguez said. Daniel Hayes is claiming the research was legitimately acquired. Says BioNexus developed it independently and you're trying to steal credit. Sarah's jaw tightened. I have lab notebooks from 5 years ago. Dated witness notarized. He has files stolen from Stanford servers. The timestamps alone will prove who developed SNB 47 first. Good. Because his lawyers are already preparing a defense. This is going to be a long fight. After the agents left, Sarah sat in her ransacked apartment. Furniture moved, files scattered, her life examined by strangers again. Her phone rang. Unknown number. Dr. Bennett? This is Emily Brennan. I just landed. Can we meet before we see my father? They met at Seattle Center near the Space Needle. Neutral ground. Emily looked like her father. Same sharp features. Same intense eyes. But where Michael radiated authority, Emily showed vulnerability. I'm sorry, Emily said before Sarah could speak. I'm so sorry I didn't speak up 5 years ago. I was in your lab when Marcus Chin from BioNexus visited. I saw him photographing your notes when you left the room. I saw him accessing the server. I knew something was wrong. Why didn't you report it? I tried. I went to Dr. Huang. She told me I was mistaken, that I was jeopardizing my career by making accusations against a major pharmaceutical company. 2 days later, someone from BioNexus Legal called me, told me that if I said anything, they'd make sure I never worked in pharmaceutical research again. Emily's voice cracked. I was 23, terrified, so I stayed quiet, and I've hated myself for it ever since. Sarah wanted to be angry, but she saw herself in Emily's fear, the same fear that had kept Sarah hiding for 3 years. You can make it right now, Sarah said. Testify. Tell the FBI what you witnessed. Help me prove the research was stolen. I will. I brought everything, copies of emails, my own lab notes from that period, even a video I took on my phone. I was documenting for a lab report. But you can see Marcus in the background at your workstation when you weren't there. Evidence. Concrete, dated evidence. Why now? Sarah asked. Why come forward after 5 years? Because my father almost died. And when Jennifer told me how using your stolen research as a weapon, I realized my silence contributed to this. If I'd spoken up then, maybe none of this would have happened. That's not your fault. BioNexus would have stolen the research regardless. Maybe, but I could have helped you fight back. Instead, I let them destroy you. Emily met Sarah's eyes. My father made terrible choices too. His company bought BioNexus, profited from your stolen work, even if he didn't know the details. Our family owes you more than we can ever repay. Sarah took a shaky breath. Help me expose Daniel. Help me shut down Vital Essence Botanicals before more people get hurt. That's how you repay me. I will, and we'll do it together. Sarah's plan required trusting Emily, the daughter of the man whose company destroyed her, a woman who'd stayed silent when speaking up could have saved Sarah's career. What would you do? Drop your answer below, because what happened next would change all three of their lives forever. 5 p.m. Michael Brennan's penthouse. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Puget Sound. The space was elegant, expensive, and somehow lonely, like Michael himself. Jennifer opened the door, her expression carefully neutral. He's in his office. He doesn't know you're both coming. Sarah and Emily exchanged glances. Emily looked terrified. I haven't seen him in 5 years, Emily whispered. He's your father. He'll listen to you. You don't know him like I do. He only listens to logic, numbers, business cases. Then we'll give him all three. They walked through the penthouse together, their footsteps echoing on marble floors. Michael's office door was open. He sat behind a massive desk, still looking pale and weak, and 4-bag attached to his arm. The chelation therapy Sarah had recommended. He looked up as they entered. His eyes widened. Emily? Hi, Dad. The moment stretched, filled with 5 years of silence and regret. Then Michael's gaze shifted to Sarah, and something complicated crossed his face. You brought the waitress. Her name is Dr. Sarah Bennett, Emily said firmly, and she saved your life. The least you can do is listen to what she has to say. Michael gestured to chairs facing his desk. Sit. They sat. Sarah pulled documentation from her bag. Lab reports, research notes, FBI statements. She laid them out systematically, like presenting findings at an academic conference. Mr. Brennan, 3 years ago, your company acquired BioNexus Corporation. Do you remember the details of that acquisition? Vaguely. Daniel handled the negotiations. Pharmaceutical research company, solid patents, good investment. Those patents were stolen. From me. Sarah opened her original lab notebook, dated 5 years ago, and placed it in front of Michael. Then she placed the BioNexus patent filing beside it. Same research, same compound, same methodology. The only difference is the dates. Mine came first. Michael scanned both documents, his business mind quickly recognizing the overlap. BioNexus engaged in corporate espionage, Sarah continued. They sent Marcus Chun to my lab at Stanford. He photographed my research, copied my server files, then orchestrated a contamination incident to discredit me. While I fought to clear my name, BioNexus filed patents for my work under their name. This is a serious accusation. She's telling the truth, Emily interrupted. I was there. I witnessed it. Michael turned to his daughter, shock registering on his face. Emily pulled out her phone, opening a video file. I took this for a lab report 5 years ago. Watch the background. The video showed Sarah's lab, equipment humming, researchers moving. And there, visible for 3 seconds in the background, a man in a business suit, photographing Sarah's workstation when she wasn't present. "That's Marcus Chun," Emily said. "I didn't understand what I was seeing at the time. But 2 days after this, BioNexus Legal called me, told me to forget what I'd seen, threatened my career if I spoke up." Michael's face went white. "They threatened you?" "I was 23, scared. I made the wrong choice." Emily's voice strengthened. "But I'm here now, and I'm telling you, BioNexus built their patent portfolio on stolen research. Your company profited from corporate theft, and Daniel weaponized Dr. Bennett's work to try to murder you." Sarah placed another document on the desk. SNB 47. "My compound, designed as a pain medication, but in high doses, it causes cumulative cardiac toxicity. I published warnings about this 5 years ago. Daniel found those warnings in the BioNexus files and modified the compound to weaponize it." Michael stared at the chemical formulas, the medical documentation, the evidence mounting like an indictment. "Why?" he asked. "Why would Daniel?" "Money," Sarah said simply. "Life insurance. Corporate succession. He positioned himself to inherit your empire while simultaneously building his own company using stolen pharmaceutical research. Vital Essence Botanicals has been distributing weaponized versions of my compound to wealthy clients for over a year. You weren't his only victim. You were just the most profitable one." Michael's hand went to his chest, with a Ford-delivered medication to counteract the poison he'd been consuming for months. "He's been killing me since last summer." "Yes, slowly enough that it looked natural. If you died, it would have been ruled heart disease. No one would have suspected murder because the compound is invisible to standard testing. Only someone with my specific research knowledge could identify it." "You saved my life," Michael said quietly, "even knowing that my company destroyed your career." "I'm a doctor. I took an oath. Your crimes against me don't negate that oath." "Crimes." Michael repeated the word like it burned. He looked at Emily. "You stayed silent about this for 5 years." "I was afraid of the same people who destroyed her," Emily shot back. "The same corporate culture you built, where profit matters more than people, where legal threats silence truth, where anyone who challenges power gets destroyed." "I didn't know." "You never know, Dad. That's the problem. You build empires without looking at who gets crushed in the foundation. You trust people like Daniel without questioning their methods. You acquire companies without examining where their patents came from." Emily's voice cracked. "Mom tried to tell you. Before she died, she begged you to slow down, to pay attention to what you were building, but you didn't listen." The mention of his late wife hit Michael like a physical blow. "Don't bring your mother into this." "Why not?" "She was right. And maybe if you'd listened to her, you would have noticed when your business partner started embezzling funds and planning your murder." Silence. Sarah watched father and daughter confront years of accumulated pain, the conversation spilling beyond the immediate crisis into deeper wounds. Finally, Michael spoke. "What do you want from me?" Sarah answered, "Justice. Not revenge, justice. I want my research credit restored. I want BioNexus's patents invalidated. I want every person who's consumed Vital Essence products notified and treated. I want Daniel Hayes prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. And I want assurance that this never happens to another researcher." "Done." Just like that, Michael met her eyes. "Dr. Bennett, you could have let me die. You could have watched my slow death as payment for what my company did to you. Instead, you risked everything to save me. That's not weakness, that's strength. The kind of integrity I've apparently lost somewhere along the way." He turned to Emily. "And you came back. After 5 years of silence, you came back to testify against my company." "I came back to do what's right." Finally, Michael's eyes grew wet. He blinked rapidly, trying to maintain control. Your mother would be proud of you. I am proud of you. Emily's composure cracked. Don't. You don't get to. I know. I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I'm grateful you're here. Michael stood shakily, the four-pole rolling with him. He walked to his office window, looking out at the city he'd helped build. Daniel and I founded Brennan Analytics 23 years ago. We were partners, friends. I trusted him completely. He betrayed that trust, Sarah said. No, he reflected it. Michael turned back to them. I built a company culture where success mattered more than ethics, where growth justified any means, where profit was the only metric that counted. Daniel learned from me. He just took those lessons to their logical extreme. Sarah hadn't expected this level of self-awareness. What happens now? Emily asked. Now, we finish what you both started. Michael returned to his desk, pulling out his phone. Jennifer, give me FBI Special Agent Rodriguez and my attorney. Then arrange an emergency board meeting for tomorrow morning. Michael's voice was steady despite his weakened state. We're going to dismantle this piece by piece. He hung up and looked at Sarah. I need you to walk me through everything. Every patent BioNexus filed that originated from your research. Every compound Daniel modified. Every product Vital Essence distributed. I want a complete accounting. That will take weeks, Sarah said. Then we have weeks. I'm not dying anymore, which gives us time. Michael's jaw set. Dr. Bennett, I can't undo what was done to you, but I can make sure BioNexus's theft is exposed. Your work is credited properly, and you're compensated for every patent they stole. And the people who consumed the poison tea. Medical monitoring for everyone. Treatment, protocols. Full financial coverage. Whatever it takes. Michael pulled up files on his computer. Jennifer compiled a list. Vital Essence has 347 active clients. Most are wealthy executives who believed they were buying premium wellness products. They've all been consuming variants of your modified compound. Sarah's stomach turned. 347 people slowly poisoned. Some have probably already died, she said quietly. Heart attacks blamed on stress. Cardiac events attributed to lifestyle. And one would have connected it to herbal tea. Michael's face darkened. Then we notify every hospital in the region, every cardiologist. We create a testing protocol to identify SNB, 47 in blood work. And we prepare for lawsuits because when this goes public, I'll be held accountable for what my company enabled. You didn't know, Emily said. I should have known. That's the point. Michael looked at his daughter. You and your mother tried to tell me that blind ambition creates blind spots. I didn't listen, and good people suffered because of it. The weight of that admission hung in the air. Sarah spoke carefully. Mr. Brennan, I need something else. A platform. When this goes to trial, I want to testify not just about Daniel, but about the entire system of corporate research theft. How many scientists have been silenced? How many breakthroughs have been stolen? This isn't just about me. It's about changing an industry that rewards theft and punishes truth-tellers. Michael nodded slowly. I'll fund it. A foundation. Whistleblower protections for research scientists. Legal support for anyone facing what you faced. We'll call it. He paused, looking at Emily. What was your mother's name before we married? Chan. Why? The Dr. Margaret Chan Foundation for Research Ethics. After your mother, who tried to teach me about integrity when I was too arrogant to listen. Emily's eyes filled with tears. A knock on the door. Jennifer entered. FBI is on the line, and your attorney wants to know what this is about. Tell him it's about corporate fraud, attempted murder, and redemption. Michael picked up the phone. Agent Rodriguez? This is Michael Brennan. I have new evidence regarding Daniel Hayes, and I'm prepared to turn over every file BioNexus ever produced, including documentation of research theft spanning 5 years. How soon can you get here? 6 weeks later. Federal Courthouse, Seattle. The trial of Daniel Hayes became national news. Corporate conspiracy, attempted murder, pharmaceutical fraud. The story had everything. Sarah sat in the witness box, no longer wearing a server's uniform. She wore a professional suit that Emily had helped her pick out, and her credentials were read into the record by the prosecution. Dr. Sarah Elizabeth Mitchell Bennett, Ph.D. in pharmacology from Stanford University, 17 peer-reviewed publications, 3 patents in pain management research. Daniel's defense attorney stood. Dr. Bennett, isn't it true that you've been working as a waitress for the past 3 years? Yes. And isn't it true that your research was deemed fraudulent by Stanford University? No. I was cleared of all wrongdoing. The investigation found no evidence of misconduct on my part. Yet you lost your position. I lost my position because BioNexus Corp engaged in a coordinated campaign to destroy my reputation after stealing my research. They succeeded in ending my academic career, which is why I took service industry work to survive. But my credentials haven't changed. My knowledge hasn't changed. And my compound, the one your client weaponized, is still mine. Sarah held up her original lab notebook. This is dated documentation from 5 years ago. Every page notarized and witnessed. The chemical structure for SNB 47 appears here, 18 months before BioNexus filed their patent. The timestamps don't lie. The attorney tried again. Couldn't you have fabricated? The notebooks were sealed in Stanford archives. Chain of custody was maintained. Independent forensic analysis confirmed the dates. Your client stole my research, and the evidence is irrefutable. Agent Rodriguez testified next, presenting the FBI's findings. Financial records showing Daniel's embezzlement. Communications between Daniel and Vital Essence distributors. Lab results from 347 poison clients. We've identified 17 deaths potentially linked to Vital Essence products over the past year, Rodriguez stated. Cardiac events that were originally ruled natural causes. Toxicology tests were never performed because herbal tea wasn't considered a suspicious substance. 17 deaths. Sarah felt sick. Her research designed to save lives had killed people. Emily testified about witnessing the theft at Stanford. Her video evidence was played in court, grainy but damning. Marcus Chen photographed stealing research while Sarah was out of the lab. Michael testified about Daniel's manipulation, the wellness retreat story, the insistence on daily tea consumption, the life insurance policies. Daniel was my partner for 23 years, Michael said from the witness stand. I trusted him completely. That trust nearly killed me, and it enabled a poisoning operation that killed 17 people and injured hundreds more. Dr. Marcus Reed was called by the prosecution. He looked diminished, embarrassed. Dr. Reed, when Sarah Bennett tried to inform you about the poison tea, what was your response? Reed's voice was barely audible. I dismissed her. I told her she was a waitress and should leave medicine to professionals. And if you had listened, Michael Brennan would have received treatment weeks earlier. Other victims might have been identified sooner. People might still be alive. Reed's hands shook. I let my arrogance override my medical judgment. I failed my patient, and I contributed to multiple deaths through my refusal to consider information from someone I deemed beneath me professionally. Kevin, Sarah's former restaurant manager, testified about the night of Michael's collapse, about firing Sarah for trying to help, about his own blindness to her expertise. The witnesses painted a picture of systemic failure, how hierarchies of prestige allowed truth to be silenced, how assumptions about a person's worth based on their job title enabled murder. Finally, Daniel Hayes took the stand in his own defense. He was polished, prepared, defiant. I created Vital Essence Botanicals as a legitimate wellness company. I had no knowledge of any toxic compounds. If there were quality control issues, they occurred without my knowledge or consent. The prosecution presented Daniel's lab notes, his emails with chemists, his research into cardiac toxins, his access to BioNexus files containing Sarah's work. You modified SNB 47 specifically to cause cardiac symptoms, the prosecutor said. You increased its lipophilic properties, altered its absorption rate, and removed the safety limiters Dr. Bennett had designed. This wasn't an accident. It was deliberate weaponization. Daniel's composure cracked. Michael's going to force me out. After 23 years of building that company together, he was going to push me aside for his daughter. You deserved his company. So you decided to kill him? I saved that company. I made the hard decisions Michael was too weak to make. Without me, without you, 17 people would still be alive. Silence in the courtroom. Daniel's attorney called for recess. When they returned, Daniel had changed his plea, guilty on all counts. The judge's sentence came 2 weeks later. 45 years in federal prison for attempted murder, 17 counts of negligent homicide, fraud, embezzlement, and corporate espionage. Sarah sat in the gallery, watching Daniel led away in handcuffs. Justice. Cold, legal, insufficient justice. But justice nonetheless. Spring came to Seattle with cherry blossoms and rain that smelled like possibility. Sarah stood in a research lab at the University of Washington, not as a waitress, not as someone hiding, but as Dr. Sarah Bennett, restored. Michael had funded her legal restitution. Every BioNexus patent derived from her work was invalidated and reissued under her name. The financial settlement was enough to pay off her debts, fund her research for the next decade, and establish the foundation she'd envisioned. But the scars remained. Sarah still flinched when men in expensive suits walked past, still caught herself calculating escape routes when entering unfamiliar buildings, still woke at 3 a.m. from nightmares of lab contaminations and court proceedings. Her therapist said it would take time. Trauma didn't heal on a legal timeline. Dr. Bennett? A graduate student knocked on her office door. The ethics committee meeting starts in 10 minutes. Sarah nodded. She'd accepted a consulting position with the newly formed Pharmaceutical Ethics Board, a watchdog organization designed to prevent the kind of theft she'd experienced. She gathered her materials and headed to the conference room. Michael was already there. He looked different now. Healthier, obviously. The poisoning symptoms had reversed over 3 months of treatment, but also softer somehow, less arrogant. He'd stepped back from Brennan Analytics, installing a new CEO while he focused on the foundation named after his late wife. Dr. Bennett, he greeted her formally. They weren't friends, probably never would be, but they developed something more complex, mutual respect born from shared trauma. Mr. Brennan. Emily arrived next, carrying coffee for everyone. She'd relocated to Seattle, taking a position as the foundation's director. Her relationship with Michael was healing slowly. Therapy helped. So did time. The meeting proceeded. Discussion of 3 new cases involving research scientists who'd reported theft and faced retaliation. The foundation provided legal support, financial assistance, and public advocacy. We've received 47 reports in 3 months, Emily said, presenting data. Corporate research theft is endemic. What happened to Dr. Bennett wasn't an isolated incident. It's a pattern. The work was overwhelming. The need was enormous. But they were making progress. After the meeting, Sarah walked through campus. Students rushed between classes, absorbed in their young lives, their futures still unwritten. 5 years ago, Sarah had been like them, brilliant, ambitious, naive enough to believe merit mattered more than power. She'd learned otherwise the hard way, but she'd survived, and in surviving, she'd found purpose beyond her own restoration. Her phone buzzed. A text from Lisa Chin. New lab results on the compound modifications. We can fully reverse engineer what Daniel did. Your original design was sound. The safety protocols you built would have prevented all of this. Vindication. Scientific, documented vindication. Sarah typed back. Thank you. Send the results to the FDA. Let's make sure SNB-47 gets proper clinical trials this time. Under my name. She stopped at the chemistry building, looking up at windows where undergraduate students ran experiments, documented results, dreamed of breakthroughs. Somewhere in those labs was another Sarah, another brilliant researcher who'd pour their soul into work only to have it stolen by people with more power and fewer scruples. The foundation couldn't save everyone, but they could save some. And sometimes Sarah had learned some was enough. She still missed the simplicity of her waitress days, occasionally. The straightforward transaction of service for payment. The invisibility that felt safe. But she wouldn't go back. Not to hiding. Not to silence. The years she'd lost couldn't be recovered. The trauma couldn't be erased. The 17 people Daniel killed couldn't be brought back. But she could make sure their deaths meant something. She could fight to make the system better. One case at a time. One stolen research project exposed. One silent scientist given voice. It wasn't redemption, but it was purpose. And for now, that was enough. 1 year later, congressional hearing on pharmaceutical industry ethics. Sarah sat at a witness table. Cameras recording, senators listening. She testified for 2 hours about research theft, corporate intimidation, systemic failures in academic oversight. The hearing room was packed. Researchers, journalists, advocates, and in the back row, sitting quietly, was Michael Brennan. Not the arrogant billionaire who'd collapsed in a restaurant. Someone different, humble, learning to listen rather than command. He met Sarah's eyes and nodded once. Respect, support. Sarah concluded her testimony. The current system incentivizes theft and punishes honesty. Until we create legal protections for research scientists, until we enforce criminal penalties for corporate espionage, until we value truth over profit, this will continue. I was lucky. I survived. Others won't. The committee chair thanked her. Dr. Bennett, your courage in coming forward has already changed lives. We've received testimony from dozens of scientists inspired by your case. How many? 47 formal complaints filed with the FBI in the past year, each one involving stolen research, corporate intimidation, or both. 47. The number echoed Agent Rodriguez's original estimate. Our next witness, the chair continued, has asked to testify anonymously due to ongoing threats. But her story exemplifies the problems Dr. Bennett has described. A woman approached the witness table. Her face was obscured on the broadcast feed. Her voice modulated. But Sarah recognized her body language, the way she moved, the nervous gesture of adjusting her collar. I work as a janitor at Global Farm Research, the witness began. But before that, I had a PhD in biochemistry. I developed a cancer treatment protocol that was stolen by my employer. When I reported it, I was fired, blacklisted, and forced into hiding. I've been cleaning the same labs where I once conducted research, invisible to scientists who walk past me every day. Sarah's breath caught. Another hidden genius. Another invisible expert. Another person society had decided didn't matter. Dr. Bennett's testimony gave me courage to come forward, the woman continued, because she proved that invisible people can still change the world. That serving coffee or cleaning floors doesn't erase expertise. That dignity isn't determined by job title. The hearing continued, but Sarah barely heard it. She'd thought her story was singular, personal, but it wasn't. It was systemic, widespread, ongoing, and fighting it would take more than one foundation, one trial, one congressional hearing. It would take a movement. Sarah looked at Michael again, then at Emily, sitting beside him. They had work to do. Sarah's journey took 3 years from the day BioNexus stole her research to the day Daniel Hayes was convicted. 3 years of hiding, fighting, surviving. But her courage exposed something bigger than one conspiracy. 47 research scientists came forward in the year after her testimony. 47 stolen breakthroughs. 47 brilliant minds society had decided to overlook. The Dr. Margaretchen Foundation has provided legal support to 33 of them so far. 12 have had their research credit restored. 8 have won financial settlements. 3 have stopped corporate theft operations that would have hurt thousands more. This is what happens when invisible people refuse to stay silent. I investigate these stories. Hidden geniuses working jobs society dismisses, expert society overlooks. Brilliant society refuses to see. Because the person serving your coffee might have a PhD. The security guard might hold 6 patents. The janitor might have discovered a cancer cure. Hit that subscribe button, join us, and drop in the comments. What hidden skill do you have that would shock people who only see your job title? I read every single comment. One of you might be my next story. 18 months after the trial, Dr. Sarah Bennett stood in her new laboratory at the University of Washington, not hiding, not serving, teaching. 20 graduate students filled the room, including Emily Brennan, who decided to pursue her doctorate in pharmaceutical ethics. Today we're discussing research integrity, Sarah said. And I'm going to tell you a story about a compound called SNB47. She pulled out an object from a display case. The original herbal tea packet, the weapon that had almost killed Michael Brennan, now preserved in a pharmaceutical fraud museum. Reminder of what happened when brilliance was stolen and weaponized. This represents what can go wrong, Sarah said. But all of you, represent what can go right. Her hands, once carrying plates, now held a research award from the National Institutes of Health. The same hands, the same expertise, the same brilliant mind, just finally, blessedly visible.